I'm JC and this is Unstitched Identity. Welcome. I've been having a think and I've come to kind of an uncomfortable conclusion about myself, and so it's going to be a bit of a rant, a kind of a think something. I've made some notes, so I will have to glance down every so often to keep myself on track, otherwise I'll just go waffling off. So the uncomfortable conclusion that I've come to is that I'm a bit of a brainless sap. And the reason I've come to this conclusion is because I found meaningful messaging in The Devil Wears Prada too. And like Hollywood glitz and glamour, and then I find meaningful messaging in it. What the hell is happening to me? I just I didn't think I was that kind of person. Anyway, I went to see it because it's great. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting it down. And I expected all that razor sharp wit, and I wanted it to crack on a pace, and I wanted to look at the frocks. I wanted to look at all the Easter eggs and all the clothes, all the fashion people, absolutely everything. Loved it. But what I actually came away with was something to think about, because kind of a message underlying it is about creativity and artistry and innovation and meaningful craft and creativity, and whether our society still values those things in a world that's, very quick and full of clicks and likes and, engagement metrics. And, they kind of, whether you've seen the film or not, the characters, they've got that bit older, and so there's a big difference between the world of Runway magazine now and when the first film came out. And so Miranda and Nigel find themselves not occupying the same cultural space as they did in the first one, when they were absolutely riding high at the top of their game. And so Andy and Hathaway's character kind of comes back in, and they find themselves locked in a unexpected alliance, really, because where Andy values good writing and craftsmanship in that way, I think she kind of comes to understand that they are coming from the same place, that the Runway magazine, the thoughtful people in the fashion industry anyways, ideas about creativity and artistry and caring about where things are made and how things are made, I think they realise that comes from the same place, the same appreciation of kind of human endeavour, and not just clicks and digital stuff and engagement. And Miranda has been forced to stop. Well, no, she hasn't stopped. She's been forced to kind of curb her monstrous ways a bit. She even has to hang up her own coat, and she's got, HR have got to her and what she can say, and she kind of knows it, but, she's still pretty monstrous. But the world has changed, and they're not at the centre of that anymore. And, the whole fact that florals for spring, which she absolutely witheringly dismisses in the first film, is now, the subject, it's the theme of the whole gala, because that's what people want to see. And they've been forced, the same way the rest of us are kind of forced, to go for that mainstream, because it's not about magazine sales. It's not about advertisers funding those magazines in the same way anymore. It's a whole different world. And as a journalist myself, that was where I started my career, and I work in comms now. But and a maker, I feel like I'm in my mid-50s. I see the way it's changed. I don't work for Runway magazine. I don't work for Vogue magazine. I work for a corporate, and I work in comms, and I sit here sewing some clothes. But I do notice the way the world's changed. AI is such a part of our everyday now, and that's really, really recent. But everything's changed in the world around us. I see fewer boutiques in the high street, and it's not even just like you can walk into a different down a different high street in Britain and see the same shops. You can order your coffee and see the same rails even in quite far-flung parts of the world. And in some places, there'll be a different logo over the door. You know, you might go next to the next door shop and there's a different logo. But what you see are the same trends and the same kinds of ideas that are put to us because of this commoditization, of this standardization of everything, of this, we don't want to make mistakes because everything's cut to the bone. So we have to make sure that everything we sell and do and make is going to appeal to the maximum number of people. And that's what Runway magazine is up against in the film. But what comes out of the film as well is that there's a real ray of hope, I think. And it's an ironic one, really, because it finds that in the end, those things do matter. Curiosity, thoughtfulness, thought leadership, innovation, creativity, artistry, craft, doing things properly with our hands, they do matter. There are people who still believe in those things and who still believe that they matter for all sorts of reasons, which perhaps I'll come back to in a future vlog and a piece as well, a piece of writing. But and it's kind of ironic because we can find our tribe now, however obscure that tribe might be. We can kind of slide down that long tail of results that we get from digital, and no matter how far flung our tribe, our people are, we can find them, and we can only have done that with the advent of the internet. So, you know, I'm not saying that me making a few frocks at home is in any way equivalent to, you know, kind of couture fashion. I am not saying that. And I'm not saying that little bits of writing that I do or the comms that I do at work every day, you know, I really, really try my best, and I'm really passionate about what I do. But I'm not saying that I'm unearthing, you know, universal truths and scattering them around the world generously and, you know, moving people's souls in their wake. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that making your own clothes, there is a little bit of rebellion in that, because it hits back in a tiny way, but it hits back at that blandness, that standardization that seems to be everywhere now as everything gains pace. And, you know, we as sewists, we keep alive some skills that society kind of increasingly thinks of as redundant. And a few years ago, you wouldn't have found, in my grandparents' generation, you wouldn't have found someone that said they couldn't sew on a button. I find that all the time, people that say they can't sew on a button. They're not interested in sewing, and that's fine, and that's why they can't do it. You know, it's not that they can't, just people haven't, you know, grown extra fingers that mean they can't work or something. But we don't value those skills anymore, because why would you? Why would you go and mend something if you can just buy a replacement? Why would you learn about cutting and fabric and quality if you know, what you buy is so cheap and cheerful that it's only designed for a season or even a night? You know, you might just wear it one night, and if it falls to bits, well, who cares, I'll go and buy another one. Because it's that you know, and I'm part of it too. Look, that I'm not clambering onto any moral high ground myself. I'm part of it. I'm in this society. We're all subject to it. There's very few people who really genuinely sit outside society. We're just trying to do our best. And I've bought things, and I've bought cheap things, because there's a lure, isn't it? There's that kind of massive dopamine hit of getting something that's super cheap that you can afford, that's exciting and new. And it's the same dopamine hit that we get from likes or scrolling or whatever, because it's super easy and it's just hit. And it's not about taking time, and that's fine. But I think we probably need a bit of balance brought back, because those fast fashion, quick fix, cheap muck, you know, we say, oh, is it a £5 for a t-shirt, two tops for £8, £10 for jeans? Oh, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. You hear that all the time. No, you can't go wrong, and you can go wrong. And something really, really has gone wrong, hasn't it? It's gone badly wrong. And that's why I think sewing's become important. And I've done a creative project over the last couple of weeks, which is why I haven't posted on here. And it's caused me so many problems, you know, and it's taught me that persevering through frustration is really important. Learning new skills, resilience, slowing down, making mistakes, all those things. And in the end, that's much more rewarding than just jacking it all in and ordering it from Temu. And I want to do those little acts of disobedience. It seems like nothing and nobody knows, but a whole load of small acts of disobedience makes a movement. And in a world that wants to kind of automate and optimize everything, I think that's really important to do. And the Devil Wears Prada too, you know, of all things, with my free, because I went on opening night with my friend Jen, my free compact mirror and my free bottle of Diet Coke, you know, because it's absolutely product placement, branded, sponsored to the nth degree. It unexpectedly reminded me that craftsmanship and thoughtfulness are not dead yet. You know, and even Hollywood and Miranda Priestley says they're not dead yet. So I don't know what that says. But it's reminded me, again, that I want to keep pushing myself creatively. And that doesn't mean it's not about perfection. It's absolutely not about that. It's about growth. And it's about fun, and it's about play, and it's about experimenting. And so I've set myself a couple of sewing challenges. I probably won't do them next, but I'm going to put it on here because I want to be held to account for it. I want to make myself some swimwear. I've got this horrible vision of me kind of diving into a pool and the whole thing just falls off me. I can never get out of the pool again. But I'm going to give it a crack. And shearing, I've never done shearing, you know, shearing elastic too. I've never done that. So that's a couple of challenges that I'm gonna do. And if anyone's got any suggestions for anything else, let me know, and I'll see if I can step up to the challenge. You know, don't challenge me to jump out of an aeroplane or something. I'm not doing that. But, you know, sewing challenges, creative challenges, I might give that a go. Although not crochet. Yeah, thanks. You know, and I've never done those things, and I'll probably end up struggling with them and probably cursing them and cursing myself. So, but I'm going to give it a try because that's what it's all about. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your creative challenges are at the moment. Maybe you want to make some creative pledges. Maybe I'll turn it into 5 creative pledges or something that I need to do by the end of the year. What do you reckon? Shall we have a bit of a challenge for ourselves? And yeah, and if not, just maybe we can all have a think about why we bother, why we sew or paint or knit, or why we even just care about where we spend our money. Because why? When Shein can ship it round halfway around the world to our doorstep for less than half the price. Or maybe it's because we're looking at the real price behind the pounds price. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think.